everyone, welcome to Time Crunch Tuesday. Today I am going to show you how easy it is to make spaghetti squash. And spaghetti squash is actually a really great ingredient substitute for pasta. I enjoy it on Sundays. We always make fresh homemade pasta sauce and meatballs, but after having pasta every Sunday, after a few weeks, I just get tired of that and want something a little more refreshing and lighter, but still with that satisfying twirl of the fork like real spaghetti. So when I first started making spaghetti squash, I was actually a little bit nervous. I really didn't know how to prepare it. It seemed a lot more complicated than it is, so I shied away from it in the beginning. And then once I made it, I just fell in love with it and realized that I can make it all the time. I can make it ahead and then refrigerate it, and it stays really well. It actually works better the next day because it's less watery because you have time to dry it out a little bit. So I thought, why not show you how easy it is for those who have never made it. You can see how quick and easy it is to make it, and it's a great pasta substitute if you're trying to lighten up around this time of year, you know, the holidays, as well as it getting colder out. You still want that warm, satisfying feeling without the heaviness of the carbs. So all you do is you buy a spaghetti squash. It's the round kind. You'll see them in the stores. This is just a little organic one. And you could typically get 2 servings out of one. So if I make one whole spaghetti squash, it's enough for my husband and myself. And all you do is take it, so like it looks literally just like a pumpkin, and then you just scrape it out. You don't even need a special spoon. If you do have a grapefruit spoon that's a little serrated on the edge, that's okay, but if not, like this is just a regular tablespoon, you just scoop it out like this and you would put it in the trash, but for demonstration purposes, I'll just put it on the cutting board. So this is all cleaned out. And also notice that I cut the edges. So if you cut the front off, then the back, you could stand it up straight and then just saw it down the middle. And then that's how you get that, and you clean it out. And that's it. So I'm going to just put some olive oil on first, just a little drizzle. And then do some pepper and salt. And to be honest, I do this now before baking, but afterwards I always like to, after I scoop it out, give it a toss and do a little bit more seasoning. And depending on the sauce or the ingredients that I'm putting in, you could flavor it with garlic or whatever else you want. But it's good to get it at least started with some olive oil, salt, and pepper before putting it in the oven so that it bakes into it and sticks really well. So you take this, you take your half, you'll have 2 halves, and you just put it face down on a baking sheet like this. And you bake it for 35 to 40 minutes on 400. And you'll see it gets like really soft. And when you turn it over, it's beautiful like this. And it smells amazing. So all you do is grab a fork to make it spaghetti-like, and use a hot pad. So you just hold it up like this. Now I took this out of the oven about 10 minutes ago and it's still pretty hot. So you could even let it go longer, but you just tilt it up and literally shred. And it comes out like spaghetti. You can see. I mean, how awesome is that? It's piping hot, obviously. But it honestly comes out like spaghetti, and this is all you do. And you fork it out. Now, you could do one of 2 things. You could either scoop this all out and put it in a separate bowl, and as I said, you could re-season, or you could just scoop it out like this and actually use the spaghetti squash itself as your bowl. And there's a few recipes out there, like if you want to put pasta sauce on it, and sometimes I like to add spinach and cheese and then throw it back in the oven to kind of make the cheese bubble on top. So you might want to keep your oven on depending on the recipe that you're making. So all you do is scoop, 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 and this is it. This is your spaghetti squash. completely shredded. I'm gonna put this in a dish so I could save it for lunch. And given how much you get out of the squash, if you buy a bigger one, you could even get more than one serving per half. So this is it. This is spaghetti squash. It's just like that. It's done. It takes, like I said, 35 to 40 minutes in the oven. So it does take a little bit long to bake, but while you're baking it, you could be preparing the sauce and the toppings. Also, like I said, I like to make this ahead of time. And you could honestly make it just like this, put it in the bowl and refrigerate it as is, and then eat it later. So it is definitely something that is good for prepping early and then just completing later, like I showed you last week with the soup. I am a big fan of making recipes like that I can make it now, half of it, like kind of make it, and then throw it in the refrigerator for later. So this is my Time Crunch Tuesday tip of the week. You're going to make amazing, delicious butternut or spaghetti squash for the fall season. It is a great alternative to pasta, super easy to make, even easier to scrape out. Put on whatever toppings you want and you have yourself a complete, delicious meal that is low on carbs and high on taste as well as vitamins. So I look forward to seeing you guys all here next week. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week.